Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really fascinating concept. The No Backboard Basketball League, or NBBL Showcase Gym,
Yeah.
and the unique approach they're taking.
Absolutely. We've been looking closely at their document, this NBBL Showcase Gym We Sell Attention.pdf. And what's really striking is like their core philosophy, how they're trying to carve out a new space in the sports world.
Right.
Our goal today is to pull out the most important pieces for you, see what makes this whole model tick.
Okay, so right off the bat, their tagline hits you. We sell attention. It's more than just a catchy phrase, though, isn't it?
Definitely not.
It seems to be the driving force behind their whole operation, this idea that in today's world, capturing and holding attention is, well, the name of the game, especially when it comes to building brands and supporting athletes.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're recognizing that in the crowded landscape of, like, youth sports, simply having a good training program isn't enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The attention they're selling translates directly into building an audience, growing the visibility of their athletes through name, image, and likeness, NIL opportunities, and ultimately, driving their business.
Okay.
And what's fascinating here is one of the primary tools they're using to grab that attention, their provisional patented UHoop.
The U-hoop, the no backboard hoop, it sounds, counterintuitive at first, right?
Yeah.
But their thinking seems to be that by removing the backboard, you're forcing players to really dial in their focus.
Yeah, on the shot trajectory, the arc.
Exactly. It's like refining the fundamentals in a more intense way. The idea being that this heightened precision will then translate to improved shooting even when they're playing on a standard hoop with a backboard.
Exactly. The theory is, without the backboard as a crutch, players develop a more precise feel for the trajectory and spin needed for a clean shot, the swish. And that, they believe, translates to better accuracy even with a backboard later. And this core training concept isn't just a philosophy. It's actually the backbone of their entire business model,
Okay.
which is a really interesting hybrid. They're not just building a traditional brick-and-mortar gym. They're weaving together a physical training space with a significant online presence through content, merchandise, and a vision for future expansion.
So this showcase gym, it's like their test kitchen.
Pretty much. It's essentially their testing ground, their minimum viable product, or MVP, to prove this whole concept actually works.
Okay. So the physical gym is the central hub, but it's all connected and amplified by what they call their content factory. This is where it gets really interesting, especially thinking about how content creation plays into modern business.
Totally.
They're planning to gather content from people who are actually using these U-hoops. Think of it as like user-generated content.
Right, exactly. Videos, clips.
And then they'll share and potentially monetize that across their own media network.
Right. Imagine a young player, hitting a great shot on their home U-hoop. They upload a clip, maybe tag NBBL.
Mm-hmm.
NBBL curates the best ones, adds their branding, shares it across their channels, maybe even gives that player some exposure or a small incentive.
Okay, I see.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how this creates a cycle, right? The content generates excitement around the U-hoop.
Which leads to more people buying them.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Which in turn leads to more user-generated content and more buzz around the whole no backboard training idea. It becomes a self-fueling engine for attention and growth.
And their vision extends beyond just individual users, you said.
Yeah, definitely. They're aiming to partner with basketball families, trainers, even entrepreneurs to establish more of these no backboard basketball training gyms, all centered around the U-hoop.
So franchising almost, or licensing?
Something like that, yeah. Plus, they're looking to sell portable versions of the U-hoop, really building that active community. It's about fostering a whole culture around this no backboard approach, not just running a few gyms,
Right, building a movement.
Yeah. This raises an important question, though. How do the athletes themselves benefit directly from all this attention?
Good point.
That's where their integrated NIL agency comes into play. It's designed specifically to empower these athletes by helping them secure endorsement deals, build their personal brands.
Turning them into ambassadors.
Essentially, yeah. Turning them into brand ambassadors for the NBBL and the U-hoop. This is a key piece of how they sell attention by elevating the profiles of the athletes within their ecosystem.
It's a really cohesive strategy. Okay, zooming out a bit, the document highlights some pretty significant trends in the sports market. The global youth sports market projected to reach a massive $77.6 billion by 2026.
Huge number.
And the sports coaching market is also substantial. Then you layer on this rapidly expanding NIL market, which is expected to become a multi-billion-dollar industry in its own right.
What's fascinating here is how MBBL is strategically positioning itself
Sure.
to tap into all of these growth areas simultaneously. It's quite clever, actually. Well, their NIL agency gives them a direct stake in that burgeoning market. Meanwhile, their content factory aims to fuel demand and sales by leveraging the increasing interest in athlete branding and, engaging youth sports content. It all ties together.
They even provide a bit of a historical perspective on basketball gyms, which I found interesting, tracing their evolution from, like, the YMCA or Boys and Girls Clubs
Right, the general purpose
to
facility.
the rise of specialized basketball training gyms in the 2010s, mentioning names like Pickup Fitness USA and Shoot 360.
Yeah, and that historical context is important because it helps us understand where MBBL sees its unique position in the current landscape.
Okay.
When you look at how they compare themselves to existing models like DBAT for baseball or Shoot 360 and Pickup USA, the differentiators really stand out.
Which are?
Their specific focus on no backboard training with the UHoop, obviously. Their in-house production of branded entertainment content, that content factory again. And that integrated NIL agency, those are the big three.
And that content factory seems to be a major differentiator. They're projecting a significant output over 15,000 videos in just 18 months.
Yeah, 15,000, and aiming for over 22 million views.
Wow.
This isn't just about passively putting content out there. It's a deliberate strategy. They plan to use engaging content, featuring their NIL athlete ambassadors, to directly drive sales of the UHoops and promote the entire no backboard training philosophy and their gyms.
So what is a content factory, according to them?
They define it as basically a streamlined system for generating a high volume of targeted marketing content. The goal is to really boost sales through social media and consistent brand messaging. It's a very intentional and, frankly, modern approach to marketing that's deeply integrated into their operations.
Okay, let's circle back to the NIL opportunity because that seems huge. They're anticipating a multi-billion-dollar market.
Yeah, they mentioned Open Doors facilitating over $1 billion in deals in 2024 alone. It's exploding.
And their agency is structured to support 40 in-house ambassadors.
Correct. With a mix, 24 high school, 16 street ball athletes, and importantly, a focus on gender balance.
That's good to see.
And their ambitious goal is to secure $800,000 in sponsorships for these athletes within the first 18 months. That gives you a sense of the scale they're aiming for right out of the gate.
$800 in 18 months for 40 athletes.
Yeah. What's really smart here, though, is the interconnectedness of their strategy. The content factory isn't just about selling UHoops or gym memberships, right?
Right.
It's also about elevating the visibility of their NIL athletes by showcasing their skills, their personalities, their use of the UHoop. They're not only making them more attractive to potential sponsors, but also naturally promoting their own products and services.
It's a synergistic relationship.
Exactly, where each part reinforces the others. They really see themselves as being the forefront of this NIL movement by actively empowering their athletes and helping them build valuable personal brands.
Okay, so they've got the concept, the content, the athletes. Now let's dig into the potential market size they're looking at and their financial projections. They break it down into TAM, SAM, and SM.
Right. So total addressable market, TAM, that's the huge global youth sports, $77.06 by 2026. And sports coaching, $5.05 in 2020 markets. Massive numbers.
Okay, the whole pie.
Exactly. Then serviceable addressable market, SAM. This is the slice they can realistically target. They define this as the basketball training and NIL markets, specifically within the U.S., which they estimate to be a substantial $10 to $15 billion segment.
Still very big.
Oh, yeah. And finally, serviceable obtainable market, SOM, the portion they realistically aim to capture. They peg this at around $500 million.
How do they get to $500 million?
That's based on their longer-term goal of establishing 100 full-size gyms, with each projected to generate approximately $5 million in annual revenue. 100 times $5 million. $500 million.
Ambitious, but okay. And they've outlined some financial projections for their initial expansion.
They have. Looking at the first 20 gyms across 10 markets, planned for years 4 through 6. They're projecting $85.6 million in total cash investment needed for that phase,
Okay.
but anticipating $331.4 million in 3-year net operating income, or EBITDA. That leads to a projected 126% average annual ROI.
Wow. 126% ROI.
Yeah, and relatively quick timelines to reach break-even 5 to 9 months and positive cash flow in 3 to 5 months for those initial gyms. Pretty compelling numbers if they can hit them.
Definitely. And if we drill down even further to just the initial showcase gym, the MVP.
Right, the 18-month projections for that initial MBBL showcase gym provide a clearer picture of their near-term expectations. They're forecasting $3.5 million in revenue.
So on what sources?
It's a mix. Memberships, obviously. Sponsorships they secure directly for the gym.
Yeah.
Advertising revenue from their content network. Merchandise sales, think UHoops, apparel. And commissions from the NIL deals facilitated through their agency.
Okay, a diverse mix.
Very. And this $3.5 million revenue is projected to lead to a profit of $162,000 within that 18-month time frame for the showcase gym.
So profitable within 18 months for the first one.
That's the projection. They also provide projections for that prototype gym in its first and third years, showing significant revenue and net income growth over time. Year 1 revenue, $2.08. Net income, $1.04. Year 3 revenue, $5.02. Net income, $3.01.
Okay, scaling quickly. And looking at the cumulative net income for that prototype gym over its first 3 years?
They're projecting a cumulative net income of $37.4 million over those first 3 years.
That's substantial.
It is. And their immediate next step, as they clearly state in the document, is to secure the necessary funding, that $500 K we'll talk about, to launch this minimum viable product. The showcase gym itself, their initial cohort of brand ambassadors, and the initial push for UHoop sales. Get the ball rolling.
What's also important to note is the variety of their anticipated revenue streams. You listed them for the showcase gym, but it really highlights how their hybrid model isn't solely reliant on traditional gym memberships, right?
Absolutely not. They're strategically incorporating NIL agency services, recreational leagues and tournaments hosted at their facilities, equipment sales, especially those UHoops, and their NDBL media production as key contributors to their financial success. It's diversified.
It's that multifaceted approach, the integration of training, content creation, influencer marketing through their athletes, maybe even live selling of UHoops.
Yeah, QVC for basketball hoops, maybe.
Huh, maybe. And the overall promotion of the no backboard concept that they highlight as being particularly innovative, it allows them to generate revenue from multiple angles, going way beyond the limitations of a purely physical gym business.
And they clearly recognize the power of content in building their brand and community. Their plan to utilize the showcase gym itself as a hub for daily content creation featuring their brand ambassadors is crucial.
The gym becomes a stage.
Exactly. This ongoing content engine will continuously amplify the UHoop and the broader MBBL mission, enhance their brand visibility in what is a crowded sports market, expand their audience reach, and foster that critical sense of community engagement among their users and followers.
Okay, finally, they provide a detailed breakdown of how they intend to use the initial $500,000 in funding they're seeking for the showcase gym. Where's that money going?
So the largest chunk, $360,000, is allocated to the lease, tenant improvements to get the space ready, and covering the first 18 months of operating costs.
Makes sense.
Then $75,000 is earmarked for further development and production of the UHoop prototype. And the remaining $65,000 is for ongoing operational expenses, kind of a buffer.
Okay, pretty standard startup allocation.
Right.
And they reiterate that $3.5 million revenue projection for the first 18 months of the showcase gym, pulling from all those streams we mentioned.
Right. Memberships, sponsorships, ad revenue, merch, NIL commissions, all contributing to that $3.05 target.
And for anyone listening who's intrigued and wants to learn more or maybe even connect with them,
yeah, the document includes contact information for Mark T. Armstrong, listing both his email address and his WhatsApp number.
Okay, good to know. So to bring it all together then, this deep dive into the MBBL Showcase Gym reveals a really forward-thinking and multifaceted approach to basketball training.
Definitely.
They're not just focused on the on-court experience with their unique no backboard methodology. They're also building a robust digital presence through their content creation engine and actively participating in the rapidly growing NIL market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their hybrid business model, which strategically combines a physical training facility with a strong online ecosystem and those diverse revenue streams, really positions them uniquely within the current sports landscape. They're aiming to cultivate not just a gym, but a recognizable brand and a loyal community around their innovative approach.
It really sparks some interesting thoughts, doesn't it? You know, considering the speed at which youth sports and athlete branding are evolving, what other traditionally physical activities might be ripe for similar hybrid models? Models that effectively leverage content and direct athlete engagement to build a brand and a business. It's definitely something to think about.
Absolutely. The intersection of physical physical activity, content, and personal branding. There's a lot of
Right.
potential there.